Hello, the Screencastify session will serve as an introduction to Module 10. So, for Module 10, you have the opportunity to learn a little bit more about how you would create project based learning activities using open educational resources. I did provide you with quite a few different types of resources in the module if you're not familiar with what an open educational resource is and or project-based learning. So you'll notice there's a little bit more in Canvas in module 10 than there usually is. And that's just to familiarize yourself with that kind of content that might be new to you. Although I will say that open educational resources are becoming huge in P12 education. So this is definitely something you'll want to know for when you're in the field. Okay, so what is an open educational resource for those that might not know or have heard of this before? The US Department of Education has defined open educational resources as teaching, learning, and research resources that reside in the public domain or have been released under license that permits their free use, reuse, modification, and sharing with others. The important key thing to know here is basically, these are things that we can use as teachers in our classrooms that are available in the public domain. So it's okay for us to use. And we can even modify them in a lot of cases to make them work for our lesson activities. Um, they further go on to say that digital openly licensed resources can include the following items. So, a complete online course, parts of an online course, um, digital textbooks, parts of digital textbooks, as well as more specific resources such as images, open images that are not copyrighted, videos, and assessment types of items. So again, kind of like where we're looking at what to look at big picture, what are open educational resources? Again, they can be full courses. We're going to talk about that in a minute, what that looks like, as well as just materials that you can use in your courses with students. And these materials can include like little modules of activities that are available for free on the internet and open for us to use, or parts of textbooks that are free and open for us to use, videos such as those on YouTube, assessments. Some people put their assessments right out there for everyone to use. Other type of assessments would be like there's websites now that you can create rubrics in, or what we did the other day, borrowing somebody else's rubric in because she allows us to modify that. It's awesome, right? Some software is free, like that's open educational, like Screencastify in the free version. And then there's just a lot of other tools and materials you can use as a teacher that are, again, in these open spaces and these public domains for us to use for free in our classrooms. And by the way, on that note, because of the current context of the situation, we're seeing an unprecedented expansion of open educational resources. Um, Due to the coronavirus, they're actually now saying, like for example, Screencastify that we use in this course. The video length was 10 minutes, got reduced in February or January to 5 minutes. Now they're saying any teacher can have the premium version, which is unlimited until April 30th to help these teachers transition to online and making videos. By the way, if any of you are interested that's and goes until April 30th, 2020. I will forward that information if anybody wants the full version for any courses that you might need to use that in or anything. Anyway, I wanted to show you a couple of the most popular and heavily used open educational resources in P12, especially in our state of Ohio. We actually have a little bit more of like an organizational structure and organizations that have helped us with open educational resources in our state, which is kind of cool. So the first one is the OER Commons. Maybe you've heard of this before. You will probably definitely hear about it once you get in your field experiences in student teaching because there's a lot of teachers that use it. And it's basically a collection of open educational resources. And like you can see here, you just go in, you search for a subject area, you can search for a specific grade level, and even a standard you want to align with. And the oercommons.org is how you get to it. And this is a resource that a lot of you might want to use for what we're going to do for Reflective Post 10. So, Reflective Post 10, and I'll talk about this a little bit more in a minute, you're going to have the opportunity to create a project based learning activity for your students that you could give to them in a Google Doc. And they're going to have the opportunity through this project based learning experience to use open educational resources. Maybe they got to research a topic and you're going to give them resources that are open educational based to do that research. So this is one site you could use, Curricu.org. Another, again, you can just start searching and it gives you a bunch of open educational resources that you could use with your students. Khan Academy is huge. They started out in kind of the STEM fields, but they've now expanded to the arts and humanities, test prep. So basically, all of you could probably easily find some type of Khan Academy resource to use. So I would highly encourage you to go check this out. Of any of these ones that I'm showing you, open educational resources, if you can anyway practice through this project-based learning activity how to use Khan Academy with your students, I would highly recommend it. It's not required, but I recommend it. Okay, K-12 or CK-12, they actually provide open educational resources. The only thing with this one and some of the other ones, for what we're doing in this course, you are going to create some type of project-based learning activity in your content area and grade level, like any project they could do. And you are going to find open educational resources that the students would use to participate in this project-based learning activity. Some of these open educational resources that are made for educators include lesson plans. For this activity, for Reflective Post 10, you're not including any of those lesson plans, okay? So you wouldn't want to give a student a lesson plan to read through. In other words, you just want to give them, materials that will help them do research. TED Talks is another huge one. I'm sure all of you have heard of this. You just go to TED Talk. You just go to TED.com/talks, and you can find, again, just thousands of different TED Talks on a variety of topics. Just search for them. This is one of those ones, because TED Talks are a little bit longer, and we know the research right now is saying if you can keep your videos for all of your students from 3 to 5 minutes, that's their best. Like, you can grab a hold of them, have them watch a video for 3 to 5 minutes, and then practice some skill. That's the best way to be educating them. So TED Talks can be a little bit long. I would encourage you to, really think about how you could use a portion of the TED Talk. So say you find a really cool one that you want to use, but it's 10 or 15 minutes long. Say, hey, view this TED Talk from minute 3 to 5. So you can make this work for you. That falls within the research that we know works for our students. Another open educational resource that I really wanted to draw your attention to that you could use in this if you wanted to, or modules. So remember back when we were just talking about open educational resources and how the US Department of Education talks about that. They talk about, wow, you could use a whole open online course as an open educational resource. What are they talking about? Like, my course is not available to everyone. It's only available to you guys, right? You're wondering, how could you use a whole course that's online, as an open educational resource? Well, they have these things now called MOOCs. And a MOOC is a massive open online course. And if you've never heard of these before, I'm about to blow your mind. I'll just prepare you now. So a massive open online course is a model for delivering learning content online to any person who wants to take the course with no limit on attendance. Yeah, right. You're thinking, how is that possible? So, for example, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, which, by the way, is one of the most highly ranked and respected STEM-focused university in the U.S., I would even say in the world. It's also one of the hardest to get into, but they have had a huge initiative to support the MOOC movement. So in other words, what happens is, they have professors that teach these courses like I'm teaching you right now. And the courses are not just open to the students, they're open to everyone all over the world. So you could take a course on, engineering from a professor at MIT, and it has thousands and thousands of people in it who want to learn from this certain professor. And if you're wondering how they do this in terms of logistics and how a professor would, grade that, all the grading is automatic. The course is kind of self-paced. Most of them don't do credit. They're just doing it to learn more about whatever the topic is, but you can do it for credit, for college credit. It's just a fascinating phenomenon. You can see here, and this is a little bit of a dated screenshot, but there's over 200 million visitors just to MIT. And this is MIT showing you statistically where all these people come from. They come from all over the world, a lot of them in the US, who take those courses. And then the audience, check this out. People who take these massive online courses, they're just taking them because they're self learners and they want to learn more about the topic. I'll give you an example. My dad recently bought 100 acres down in Athens, and it's all wooded, right? And he wanted to learn about more about forest management. So he goes on, he takes a MOOC. Okay. My dad, who hasn't been in college, and he's a master's MBA years and years ago, right? He's just like, I just want to go learn more about my trees and how I can take care of them. And he goes and he registers for a course online to learn more about his trees. I mean, how cool is that? So MOOCs, a lot of people are just doing this because they want to learn. Now, there also are a lot of, you can see how that's broken up. There's a lot of students who want to participate this too. Some who want credit, some who just want to learn more and a different perspective from those that they've had in their courses. edX is another awesome one. You can see edX is kind of like a collection of different universities. So you can see MIT again, Harvard, Berkeley, the University of British Columbia, and the University of Queensland. And by the way, MOOCs, when they have conglomerations and collaborations like edX, are from all over the world. It's just phenomenal. And Coursera is another one, as is Future Learn. edX, I wanted to point out, does have, like, if you want to, and I encourage you to really do this, but I know right now, crazy times, might not have time. And we usually do this as part of the course. But you can actually go into edX.org. If you copy and paste this link at the top of the screen, you can actually go in and it's a course on MOOCs. So you learn how to take a course that's a MOOC, and it is very, very awesome course. Again, self-paced. You just figure it out on your own. And check this one out. You can log in with Google, so you could log in with the Google account you created for this course. And what happens is you sign up for it, and you go in. You learn more about what a MOOC is and how you participate in the course, and has different modules, and it's the coolest thing ever. But it's twofold. You can use this with your students, especially say you've got a gifted student in your class who's way far ahead and you need some enrichment activities. Hello MOOCs. And there's so many from them for them to choose from. It's awesome. So that you really open up the student's interest area when you use MOOCs. And two, for your own professional development. I mean, say they have MOOCs on everything, like how to create assessments and formative assessments and summative assessments, and how to how do you learn more about your students and classroom climate. I mean, there's just so much out there. I would highly encourage you to check it out. So bringing that back into what are we doing for module 10 and reflective post 10? Again, I kind of mentioned that as part of reflective post 10, you have this opportunity to design a project-based learning activity. And when we meet, I'm going to ask, we're going to meet in Zoom on Thursday. I'm going to ask how many of you have participated in project-based learning. Most of you probably in high school. We're going to take it a little bit different. There is a movement, as I've already explained, to get away from printing things off, and you know, um, we want to do all of it online. So in this course, we're actually going to do it through Google, a Google Doc. Again, we want to show that you can use this technology to enable students to work together and collaborate in an online space. So you're going to just go ahead, you're going to open up a Google Doc, you're going to title it Project-Based Learning Activity, and then we're going to add in some requirements for that Google Doc that you need to complete. So if you right now wanted to pause the screen, go open up a Google Doc, make sure you use the account for this course, the Google account that you want to use for this course. Create a new doc and just fill in these like headers, if you will. So grade, content area, topics, standards, objectives, project title, project purpose, project description, and project resources. And I'm going to show you what each of those should have and an example from an exemplar from last semester. So you hopefully have your Google Doc open, and here's the order in which those headers are that you're going to work through. So first thing is grade. Choose one grade in your licensure grade levels to do this project-based learning activity with. And then you're going to, say to me, okay, what content area? Because some of you, like that have K-12 intervention specialists, or who have a license that is, elementary, K-5 or P5, we have to make sure we specify what content area, because you could do any content area. I would highly recommend those two groups of folks, EC and intervention specialist, that you use reading or math. And I would encourage all of you, if you can stay on that same topic you've been using all semester, you can do this project-based learning activity So again, you can use it in that final lesson plan we create in this course in a couple of weeks. And when you choose that topic, please make sure that topic is actually within that grade level in that content area. And we'll talk about that in just a minute in terms of standards. So here's how this would look. Here's a Google Doc opened up. This is from a student who earned full credit last semester. So I wanted to show you an example. So we just talked about in the previous slide, grade, content area, topic. So this is what it would actually look like in your Google Doc. Grade, she says 10, content area, chemistry, topic, periodic table and trends. Okay. Now, how do you make sure that the grade level, content area, and topic are all within the standards? Remember that PDF of your standards we downloaded? Go and make sure again that that grade level and content area actually address the topic within the standards. And then you're going to list the standards. I will say for this right here, the example that the student has, instead of just saying, the letters and numbers for your standards, please go ahead and write that out. I know some of you, it's kind of short like that. It just says periodic table. Try to give me a little bit more of what the standard says. And yes, you do have to use the Ohio Department of Education academic content standards that are on the website. Then, once you have that core information, you're going to develop your objectives. So, again, you see this language you must use. Students will bullet and then start with those measurable verbs that we've talked about that are on Bloom's taxonomy. Make sure you try to use higher level Bloom's taxonomy verbs and lower. And you're going to say identify two trends, for example, or explain, and then portray. Okay, so she kind of said this is what they'll do. And this guides the rest of what you're going to have in here. So again, now you have the core pieces done. Now you're going to start getting into the heart of what is this project-based learning activity they're doing. Okay, so what's the project title? Come up with some catchy name. Again, this Google document would be a document you're giving to the students. So it's not something for you. It's for you to distribute to the students via Google Docs. Okay, so make sure that project title is catchy to them. And also, when we're talking about project purpose, you're going to clearly state the purpose of the project so that the student understands how participating in that project, it helps them meet the objectives here. So in other words, here's the objectives. Now your purpose needs to address how those objectives are met. So again, creative title here, trend takeover, and then a description of the project. I would highly encourage you to use language similar to this. The purpose of this project is for the students too. And again, make sure it's aligned with your objectives. And it should be at least a paragraph, if not more. Now, the longest piece of this Google document, project-based learning activity with these open educational resources, is going to be your project description. And this is where you have to create a description of the project for the students. So in other words, the students would be reading this and they know exactly what to do because you're so clear. And it describes the technology-focused project-based learning activity they're going to do. Make it clear to them, again, here's an open educational resource I would like you to use and why and what you need to be doing with it. It should be step by step, and it must include aspects of research where, in other words, they're learning more about the topic. And the teacher provides these. You must include a minimum of 5 open educational resources for the students to explore. And I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. And then the last part, you're just going to provide a list of those 5 or more open educational resource links that your students are going to use. So again, here's the project description. You're saying what the students are going to be doing. And then here's the most important piece right here. So step 1, they need to define electronegativity and electron by clicking here to learn more about that. Okay, so she has 2 open educational links right here already. Then include these definitions on this poster they're going to create about their specified elements, okay? 2, on the poster, draw a rough outline of the periodic table. 3, after drawing that, okay, research the trends of these electrons by clicking here to learn more about it. 4, once you've drawn those arrows representing the trends, you're going to make sure that they are on the right page by clicking on more help with those trends. And then 5, once these 3 arrows are drawn demonstrating the trends, research the properties that are responsible for those trends using this online textbook example. And then they go on to create a poster, and she has a list of these links because they're hyperlinks here. And the reason we want to have the links listed is just so that maybe the hyperlink doesn't work, so they could copy and paste the link at the bottom if they need it. So again, the required sections you have to have in a Google document are grade, content area, topics, standards, objectives, project title, project purpose, project description, and project resources. Now, how are you going to submit this? Just like we were doing before, you're going to do a screenshot when your Google Doc is done. You're going to do a screenshot of your Google Doc, and then you're going to put that on your artifacts page of your blog and provide a brief description with a hyperlink to the shareable link of the Google Doc. Remember, you can't copy and paste the link at the top of the screen for the Google Doc. You need to click on the shareable link. So this is what it should look like. Again, screenshot of the Google Doc, a description of what the students are doing, and then a hyperlink. I shouldn't see any more URLs to the actual activity. To submit this, all I need is the URL to your artifacts page, your blog, just like we were doing. Oh, it says in Blackboard, holy Batman, in Canvas. For those of you who are kind of new to what is project-based learning, I just wanted to share that it is basically any activity the students are doing. It's really student focused, but that they get to explore like kind of real world challenges and problems. For example, in the last one that I was just looking at, they're learning more about, okay, how do the trends of these elements in the periodic table impact certain things, right? And then there's some key when you're designing these project-based learning experiences, key things that you want to focus on. One, you need to have those learning goals. Those objectives that are in your Google Doc are very important. Describe to them in that description, how this is meaningful to them and what they're doing. 3, make sure you ask questions. Like if you go back in hers, like these are asking questions. What is it? What is an electronegativity? What is electroaffinity? You're asking the students to learn more about those and providing the students to answer questions too, but more particularly, you're providing them with questions and an activity that's rigorous. Try to include a real world context or tasks and tools. Now, inherently, by the nature of this project, they're using open educational resources. So this is kind of already met because they're using tools that are available in real world contexts. You're not just forcing them to use one textbook. And then allow the students to make decisions about the project. So, for example, in the one that they were just doing, they can create any type of poster they want as long as they're addressing the key items in the project description that she discussed, and then giving them opportunity to reflect on that. It's also important, and I know this isn't really a scope of what we're doing here, but always to give them a chance to, receive that feedback. And then that project work, displaying that in public is really important too. Again, that's why the one I just showed you is so cool because it's a project-based activity and then they share about it. So what are some things that you can do? You could have students look at things in your topics in your area with different viewpoints. You could think about, things like designing perfect systems or ideas or concepts, or like this one says, the perfect civilization, solving personal problems or community problems, dissecting certain things, helping people, so, more service oriented, creating things such as a photo documentary. You could kind of see there's a lot of different ways that you can take this. And I've given you resources in Canvas if you're like totally clueless on what they should do, to help you out. And you can also go to this project search website, and I gave you the bit.ly right here, and you type in the subject area, and it'll give you all different types of projects, and you can try to find one that aligns with what you've been doing in class already. So as a final reminder, make sure you take a look at the Reflective Post 10 rubric. It's basically broken down by, okay, how strong are your objectives? And then what was your project-based learning activity? How well did you describe it? And then how well did you use that minimum of 5 open educational resources and describe to the students how they needed to use it? And then as usual, make sure you're submitting this on time. On that note, I did want to remind you, because of the situation going on right now, Reflective Post 9 and the videos is due this Saturday, as well as Reflective Post 10. So keep that in mind. For those of you who chose to kind of take a minute to go home and figure out how to do Module 9, you'll have Module 9 and Module 10 due this week. On that note, I did want to say I had a student for the first time ever in this class. It was so awesome. She had a little issue with her screencastify or her handbrake, And so she created a screencastify video to show me what her issues were. And it was so awesome because I was able to troubleshoot that. I know some of you have sent me some emails, and I've even met in Zoom with some of you. But if you could send screencastify videos to me showing me what's happening, that really helps me be able to troubleshoot. So, anyway, that's all for Module 10 in terms of Reflective Post 10. I did want to point out a key feature of our Google Certification Unit 10. In the What Will You Learn, you'll notice this week it's all about like the presentations and how you can make your presentations, especially in Google Slides, because of course that's what Google prefers. Um, how you can make them kind of more creative. And it talks about how you can adjust images and borders and colors. And I wanted to just show you something here. You can add a border and adjust color. So anytime you're in PowerPoint or in slides, you can adjust the pictures. You see here, you just click on the format pictures and it gives you all these different options. You can actually change the color of images, and you can change the gradient features. So that looks kind of cool, that one. Anyway, I just thought I'd share that. It's there's a lot of really awesome things that you can do that are a little more tech savvy if you want to. Anyway, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me at williamsn1@finley.edu. Thanks.